Hi, welcome to this Construction Marketing Awards webinar about using data to guide your marketing strategy. Now, the Construction Marketing Awards, hopefully you are all aware, but they are the UK's most prestigious marketing award in construction, and entries are open. So you can go to the website, cmawards.co.uk right now, start your entry, and the good news is you can start it and then come back to it later. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. So anyway, we have a bunch of speakers here today, as you can see. We have Lee Simpson of Insynth, who are our partner in putting this webinar on. We have Kate Perrin from Barber ABI. We have Gavin Brightman of Sound Zero, and we have Dan Tyre from HubSpot. Dan is in Phoenix, Arizona. What time is it, Dan?
It's 3:02 a.m. in the morning.
Fabulous. Okay. You see, what we did, we thought, okay, we're going to use some data to guide our strategy here. We researched what the optimum time for doing a webinar was. We discovered by looking at thousands, literally, of webinars that the best time to do a webinar is 11 a.m. on a Thursday. So here we are. Unfortunately for Dan, it's not 11 a.m. We'll just have to see how you deal with it one day. Anyway, what we're going to do is step through this subject matter, listening to each of our speakers in turn. The first one up is going to be Lee Simpson, and Lee's going to give us an overview of this subject area. So over to you, Lee.
Thank you, Ross. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, just trying to set the scene for using data to guide a winning marketing strategy. It feels right now that marketing is at a bit of a tipping point as consumer behavior is changing, and that's been accelerated by the pandemic, and we've all seen this sort of massive shift and leap to digital. We've got new channels to master almost by the week. There's something new we've got to get a grip of, whether it's TikTok or LinkedIn as it was back in the day, and many other sort of places like that. And we've also got new technology which is coming through thick and fast. So basically marketing is becoming incredibly complex. But unfortunately, I think the Korn Ferry study recently, it revealed that the modern CMO only has a tenure of about 3 years in the role before there's a change. And what this means is the sort of marketing leaders, they know they're in for a tough ride. So they tend to pivot towards short-term tactical initiatives rather than big strategic plays. And because of this, they're not delivering a consistent level of growth. And again, the CMO doesn't earn the respect and of the board. They don't appear relevant, and the cycle starts again. So this is why marketing isn't respected and valued as the same way as finance operations, finance and operational departments and sales teams. But to get to grips with these complexities that we see in the market today, in the modern marketing environment, we think that data needs to be used to develop that winning strategic play. Data is really critical these days in modern business decision making, and unfortunately what we see time and time again when we're working with businesses is there's no coherent way of gathering and organizing data, analyzing that data and visualizing that data. So what we tend to find is that these decisions are made pretty much in the dark. A few conversations with the people in sales, maybe 1 or 2 conversations with people in the market, but there's nothing really solid which is underpinning these big strategic plays, which then means that ultimately you're relying on luck rather than judgment for your success. One of the big problems we find is that data exists in silos within organizations. There's data in financial systems, there's data in spreadsheets, there's maybe some data hidden in the back of your website, maybe you've got some social media channels which are driving with producing data, you've got stuff on Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Google AdWords, but it's all disparate, it's all over the place, and no one really knows how to seize that data and bring it all together to create that single source of truth. And that's what you need to do. You need to create that single source of truth to really get an in-depth and detailed understanding of what's happening in your market and what's happening with your customers. And it's essential these days that we start our strategic decision making from reliable and complete data. Ultimately, if you can get great insights from the data that you've got, you're going to get a better grip of the strategic options available to you, and going to be able to make better decisions for your company, which are then, all, at the end of the day, result in marketing being seen as a credible part of the management team, rather than the colouring in department, which we so often hear it referred to. So there's three areas that we believe you've really got to get your act together in data, and we call it the 3 C's. First C is the customer, understanding who they are, what they're doing, what they want, what their needs are, what their behaviour is like, and there's plenty of ways of gathering data in those areas. The second one is around your own company, understanding, you know, the data around the financial aspect of the business, what resources you've got, and whether, you know, the opportunities that are out there are actually relevant, and you've got the capability to deliver against them. And the third one is the competitor space. And competitor analysis is really important to you know, being able to get position yourself in a unique space to take advantage of the opportunities that exist in the marketplace. Now, we find that creating a unified system for data is becoming far easier in 2021, more easier than it's ever been before, and I'm sure Dan will be expanding on that point from HubSpot's perspective, which is a system which we've been using for a number of years now, and made a big change in the way that we help our clients with their growth strategies. Also, we'd like to get this external data, and in the construction industry, who better to bring to help us understand what's happening in the marketplace. And Barber ABI, we believe, are the leading company for getting hold of data around projects, around the people that are involved in them, and bringing that to market in an accurate and timely fashion. I think we've got plenty of examples for how data can be used in the modern space, and bringing it all together enables us to, as I said, understand the opportunities that exist, identify the decision makers that are involved in the marketplace, and get to and interpret the challenges and needs that they have. We recommend things like keyword research, and we use plenty of tools in that space to understand exactly what information is being used on Google to find products and solutions. And this is really insightful for us, because using tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz, Answer the Public, they give you the insights into what people are looking for. This kind of information can help you develop your content strategy, and can help you to develop products and solutions which are going to suit your customer. So if we can get that customer piece right, understanding what they're looking for, that's going to be a really big part in helping to shape those strategies. Once we've got that content strategy together, we can then use the information that's coming into systems like HubSpot and these centralized data systems to start to understand how that content is being consumed, and start to use AI to pull together the additional sort of matching content which we can serve to customers and specifiers alike. This means that when an architect or a consultant is looking at your product and particular aspects of it, you've got the intelligence within the systems that you can bring together to actually deliver matching content and complementary content to really start to position your brand as a thought leader in the space and become that trusted advisor. Once that's all coming together, we can start to use tools like A/B testing to improve the way that we are making our web pages and our marketing activity work, such as email marketing and Google Ads, to again, at that tactical level, drive better performance. And gathering all this data, which enables us to review, analyze what's working, what's not working, hypothesize around the sort of things that could be done to improve, and ask the important questions like why is this happening, what's happening here, who's using this information that we're putting into the market to help drive our marketing strategies. And then once we've got these hypotheses, we can test them, review, analyze, and that continuous improvement cycle begins. And I think this is where, as marketing leaders, we have an opportunity to change the way that marketing is perceived at board level, because we're using data in a scientific way to actually enable us to make better decisions. And those better decisions can help us grow quicker and more predictably and more sustainably. And that is really where we're coming from as a team at Insynth, is using data to understand what's happening in the market, using sources like Barber, pulling the data together from tools like HubSpot and all the other associated data sources which are in the market, to help us to make better decisions, more informed choices, because strategy at the end of the day is about making the best choices. And once we're making those better choices, we're getting better results, which then enables us as a profession of marketers to gain more respect amongst our colleagues and try to address this issue of being seen as a support function to sales, and give us that longer tenure and strategic input into the way that businesses are developing.
Thanks, Lee. That's great. Really good overview. Thanks very much. So we're going to move on now rapidly, so we get to spend as much time with our speakers as we can. To Dan Tyre of HubSpot, coming to us live from Phoenix. Fantastic. Dan, as you just heard from Lee, companies struggle to collect and organize their data in a structured way. What's the best way to tackle this kind of issue?
First of all, Lee, amazing. Very, very good for laying the foundation. And for our attendees, just put in the Zoom group chat whether that resonated with you, because it definitely resonated with me. And I'm like, yes, in the manufacturing segment, virtually all over the world, what you just described, what I just heard, is that marketing is now in the forefront of growth. And what I just heard you say, which I'm like, yes, 100%, is that everybody has an opinion. Everybody, this is the way we always did it. And for the first 30 years of my career, that's what I said. No. Trust your gut. That's what I'm going to do. In 2021, trust the data, right? You bring your data, right? And what I just heard you say is that marketing is core to growth. Now, the data changes everything, and marketers are now emboldened, right? Marketers are as important as the sales team, which is different in manufacturing over the last 2-3 years, right? Because of the changes that have moved. Now, many companies, they struggle to collect and organize their data in a structured way. That's what Rosh was saying. And so you have to have sales and marketing all working together, right? Not in legacy systems, right? If you're still working in spreadsheets, it's horrible, right? Put in the Zoom group chat if you're still working in spreadsheets, and don't be shy. We know, Lee, we see it all the time, right? People very well-meaning, but they're like, no, that's just the way we've always done it. And you know that it's harder to keep track of all the kind of things. You described it perfectly, Lee. Single source of truth. Marketers need a little bit different viewpoint of the data. Salespeople need a little bit viewpoint of the data. But if you're working with different data sets, right, it becomes really, really hard. One of the observations that I've seen, really driven by the global pandemic, is that every company, especially every manufacturer company, is now a tech company. And it's driven by customer demands, right? It used to be that you could just say, nah, we're not really a tech company, or that's not a strength of our business, right? But you can't say that in 2021, right? There are now expectations driven by the B2C apps that we have on our phone, driven by the bare minimum of speed, of accuracy, of personalization, of delivering the right information to the right person at the right time. And I saw in the bios of the people who are attending, there's some senior people here. You guys remember when you could say, oh, we'll get back to you at the end of the week, right? And that was completely acceptable. Now you got to get back to people within the hour, right? The data shows you have to get back to people within 5 minutes, right? Or it doesn't cut it. And so the key in the foundation is you got to start with a CRM, right? And put in the Zoom group chat if you know what CRM stands for, Customer Relationship Management, right? And it's not a spreadsheet, right? But you have to keep track of companies, contacts, Lee said competitors. I also agree. You have to keep track of deals so that you understand and plan out your utilization. You also have to keep track of interactions. And a modern CRM, right, starts with super easy to use. In the old days, you had a CRM that no one ever used. It was good for forecasting for senior managers, but salespeople hated it. A modern CRM is linked to your email, right? So every time you send an email, right, it automatically goes into your CRM, right? The days of data entry, do you guys remember data entry? Okay, you remember when you would put in, sit there on Sunday night, you'd have these little pieces of paper and you'd put stuff into your CRM? I know you can't do that anymore, right? You were just saying, you got 2 kids, you're running around, you're doing all this stuff, you're speaking all these your salespeople can't do it either, right? Actually doing data entry is so old school, right? You need a CRM that automatically has that information. You need a CRM that notifies you when people are on the website. You need a CRM that's hooked to your email. You need a CRM that people actually use, actually increases productivity. And a modern CRM does that. In addition, what you'll find is that a modern CRM has a meetings tool, right, which allows people who want to talk to you to get on your calendar, right? If you're ever in these email chains where I'm sending an email to Ross and copying Lee and say, hey, can you meet on Thursday at 3 o'clock in the morning? Can you meet? It's horrible. You spend all this time just doing coordination, and a modern CRM has a way to do that. So this should hopefully have the data that Lee was talking and Ross were talking about. Number 2, keep you more organized. Number 3, help you earn more business, which is super important, right? The foundation of that CRM. Oh, by the way, HubSpot has one if you're interested. Lee can get you all the information. I'll put it in the Zoom group chat. And it starts at free. Do UK manufacturers like free stuff, Ross? They like free stuff? Can I give out free stuff or no?
You can give out free stuff, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so I put a couple of things in the chat pane, and Lee and Ross have all of the links. We have the industry data broken down by region and vertical market, right? We have a blog article called Marketing Data to Make Smarter Decisions that is part of the HubSpot blog. And we'll drop in the HubSpot free CRM that's the underpinning for all this information. Now, you also asked a question about the metrics to use, is a question for many marketers, and that is a very good question. What should marketers be analyzing and reporting on? And one of the things that came through in the opening is that now marketers have a seat at the table, right? And this is a change. It used to be sales were sales were the most important thing, and marketers were always in the doghouse. You remember those days, Lee, right? You were always in the doghouse, right? There were 30 salesperson, 1 marketing person, and they were you're like an afterthought. Today, marketers are in the forefront, because if you're not getting people to the website, if you're not following that customer journey, if you're not mapping all that data, you're not going to generate additional business. Manufacturing is a relationship-oriented business. That's not going to change anytime short-term, but this data provides the information that you need to lean into those relationships. So the things that we want you to track is, number 1, the growth goal. And whenever I'm working with manufacturing companies, I always cycle in and say, all right, what is the total revenue, right, or quota that you have for 2021? And marketers should know what that number is, right? They should know the revenue number that the company wants to hit or the segment wants to hit. The next thing they should know is how many net new customers it requires to get that business, and how much is going to come from existing clients. And in most cases, there's, let's say you want a $1 million turnover increase in revenue, right? You're going to figure out, okay, of that million, 20% is going to come from existing customers, 80% is going to come from net new customers. And then we're going to go through what's called a reverse funnel analysis, right? And what that does is to say, all right, if we need 800,000 of additional turnover, right? How many customers is that? And that's kind of interesting because it breaks down into gorilla customers, big customers, right? That have their usually a little bit lower gross profit, right? But larger deal size, right? And just regular customers, right? Just regular size, deal size, average deal size. And we're going to get the number of customers and the average deal size, which should equal the turnover rate of the incremental business that you want. Then when you have that number, let's say it's you need 10 new customers and 2 gorilla customers. You're going to say, all right, how many proposals do we need to get 10 new customers and 2 gorilla customers? So let's say that's 20 proposals for regular customers and 4 gorilla proposals. Then we're going to go back to how many opportunities do we need to generate that number of proposals. Then we're going to go back to how many conversations do we have to get that number of opportunities, active opportunities in the pipeline. Then we go all the way back to how many leads do you have to generate. And Lee can walk you through this. He's an expert on this kind of like identification. And now you have the growth data. Now you can sit with the senior management team and say, all right, we need to get 850 new people to our website that will work through this process, that will result in, and they're like, wow, you have all of that data. How do you have all that data? And in his back pocket, Lee has what's called data attribution, right? And Lee can tell you where your best leads are coming from. He can show you if they come through the website, through your chatbot. Oh, by the way, everybody has to have a chatbot. If you don't have a chatbot on your website, call Lee today, right? Because when Kate needs an answer, if it's like a big answer on a deal, she wants to talk to a salesperson. By the way, you got 5 minutes to get back to Kate or she's mildly annoyed. Even her, I know. Exactly. You're like, that's why a bot is so important. There's sometimes, you seem like a nice person, Kate, but sometimes you just want the answer. You don't want to talk to a human being. I don't know about you, Gavin. Do you like talking to human beings? Right?
No, I'm just.
There we go. There we go. Especially not at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're up with the kids. You're like, oh, I need to understand where this project is. Boom. You get on a chat bot. And if you're there, right, tied to a human being, if like it's too hard to answer that question, then everybody's happy. If you don't have that, right, that you're a competitive disadvantage. People want the information right now. And that's what a data-driven organization can do. All right. So the reverse funnel analysis, the other thing that's very important to me is deal creation. Right? Manufacturers need to make sure that the utilization rate is the right level so that they can balance what their production level is with their sell-through, right? And to do that, you need to understand, do you have enough opportunities in the pipeline that will fall at the right time so that you can manage that utilization rate? That deal creation, critically important. And of course, in HubSpot CRM, super easy to see an overall pipeline, overall segment, move it from one step to the next. And then the most important data for both sales and marketing is the ratio of the percentage of what moves from one segment to the next, right? We're happy to suggest, right, the different deal stages that you can move forward. Lee can, of course, help you having can I say 20 years? Have you had 20 years of experience in data marketing for manufacturing companies?
30 down, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You look like you're 42 for crying out loud. Unbelievable. Right. We just start when you're 15. I know. And he knows exactly. He's like, no, these are the ways, which is super important. You'll give you new insights into your business. The final question that Ross asked me, which I thought was great. Why does inbound work for industries like construction, where business making is detailed and a highly considered process? Why don't traditional outbound techniques work, right, in a modern business environment? And it's not that they don't work. It works. It just works at a much lower level than it used to, right? The reason why manufacturing companies have been a little bit slow to migrate to the new normal, although that's changing, right? I think you'll all agree that in like 2020, everything changed. I'm going to put in some other links about how to transition your sales team to a remote sales force and how to manage a relationship, right, over Zoom. But people used to love you for everything. They used to love you for your relationship, for your preference, priority. That was what relationship was all about. Manufacturing and industrial companies are all about relationship. Today, they only love you for certain functions. They want and need quick, accurate, and speedy. And you have to formulate these relationships. And people want them the first time you meet, right? They expect you to know, wait a second, we worked together in 2014. I didn't even work for the company in 2014, but my CRM says that this lady, Kate, you came to our website 14 times in April of 2014, and you asked all these great questions. And then you didn't do anything with us for the next 7 years. And she's like, yep, that's what happened. We got all excited about this project, and then it got furloughed. Right. But now we're excited about that project. And if you start that conversation with, well, Kate, it looks like you were trying to build a manufacturing plant outside of London, and it looks like you went through the planning process and we worked with you on that. Now, all of a sudden, access to that data is important for the salesperson, important for the marketing person, adds into the data function of all of the foundation that we talked about. All right. Does that make sense, Ross? Did I miss anything?
No, that's pretty good. I don't think you missed anything. And given it's 3 o'clock in the morning, if you did, I'd let you off, you know, the odd miss, right? That's great. Thanks very much, Dan. So now we're going to move on to Kate from Barbour. So Kate, over to you.
That was an extraordinary amount of energy for 3 a.m. Dan. I'd love to see you at the kind of optimal webinar time of 11 a.m. in your local time zone. So yeah, thanks so much for that. So I'm not going to talk for long because I know you're probably all kind of really wanting to hear from Gavin, who's kind of a patient zero in terms of case study of how he's done all of this, you know, within his business. But I think thinking about data and marketing, two things that, you know, I love very much. I think for me, the power and the ultimate aim of data-driven decision-making in marketing is to ensure that we're communicating the right message at exactly the right time, using the right medium to the right person, but every single time. So that gives, you know, your marketing investment, our marketing investment, the best possible chance of success, and will, I suppose, ensure a return on investment. So building material marketing experts are, of course, well versed to using construction intelligence to inform a personalised response and approach. And we at Barbour ABI support our own clients to use detailed project information to target communications to the key decision maker just at that right stage of the project for them, to ensure not just the rightful specification of their project, but influence it all the way through to installation. So they can see more than simply just project information, but using things like relationships data, they're able to understand exactly what the supply chain looks for or looks like for every project. So it's the classic data set of who, and they're all opted in, what, when, where, and how, and the why, of course, comes from your own marketing magic. So in terms of our team, data sits at the heart of our own marketing strategy. And our team is structured to ensure a laser focus on 4 pillars of marketing. So client, product, acquisition, and content. And the content marketing side of things has really ramped up over the year of COVID, as I think most organizations' content marketing strategies and output has as well. So for each of these areas of marketing, we've got a unique data set that we meticulously track and make decisions against. We do a lot of data split testing. We love an A/B test at Barbour ABI. And it was interesting what Dan was saying about data versus gut, but let's admit it, we love an A/B test, but we especially love it when it actually confirms our much to be relied upon marketing gut instincts. So where data is telling us that our gut is correct. But of course, it's really important when it's actually showing us something different to kind of what we thought it might show. So we've had a few of those as well during the last year, a few surprises in terms of our split testing. We've also quite recently implemented a marketing automation platform. So that's allowing us to really focus on relationship building through personas. So we've all got our personas, and I think that what we've been able to do through this system is actually program in the fictional representations of each of our customer audiences. And whilst we're still very much at the start of that journey, I think it's fair to say that we're already benefiting from how easy it is to create personalized messaging to target each persona. So I think at the end of the day, we marketers, we're trying to establish a relationship with leads as individuals, regardless of where they're at in terms of their personal buying journey. So take dynamic emails, landing pages, and forms, websites, all of these can help with relationship building. So, we're all aware that on average, I think it's personalized messaging creates 6 times the transaction rates as standard messaging. So that's why we really want to make sure we're getting this marketing automation just spot on. So it's all about marginal gains for us. It's about starting small, starting at the foundations and kind of building up. Marketing automation is also something that we're really championing with our clients through a service called Project Prospector. So what Prospector does, it layers on top of Barber ABI's data and then warms up through automation the most relevant project leads to you, to deliver you a set of hot leads that then your sales and marketing team can follow up on. So you're really focusing on those kind of higher order data sets. And inevitably, we're seeing that this data-driven approach is delivering a real tangible return on investment for these clients. Of course, at Barber ABI, kind of being 80 years old, we're fortunate to have access to not just a huge in-house research team, but also a team of economists and analysts. So what this does is it provides the all-important context or backdrop to many of our campaigns and really allows us to focus in on growth areas of construction that are right on that upward trend. So we really try and hit it at the right point in terms of the hockey stick growth. So you've probably seen we've been creating smart maps, so using our kind of geo mapping technology, and create your own data sets, such as client lead tables. And anyone can access this, as all of this content is free to air. And the idea behind it is that we're using data, but we're allowing our customers, our market, to interact with the data and really make it work for them. I think one of my favorite campaigns, it's a B2C, obviously it's Starbucks, but it's something that I talked to my team a lot about. I think they were pretty much the first ones to really nail a marketing campaign that really spoke to the user, to the unique individual in terms of how do you like your coffee? And we could kind of build up the order depending on the type of milk, type of coffee, whether we wanted syrup in it and so forth. So I always come back to that in terms of, marketing, and really think about how we can leverage and utilize these data sets to not just provide people with the information, but also think about flexible tools that will really allow them to get hands-on and make it work for them and for their unique needs. So obviously the benefit to our clients is that they're learning about these trends as we are, and are able to make more timely strategic decisions. Everything, I suppose, from go to market to business development focus to resource focus, right through to product development. So I think, to sum up, the aim for us all, I guess, is to get as close to real-time data-driven decision-making as possible. The right data set and the right MarTech tools are clearly crucial in this mission. And we're on a journey, at Barber ABI to do that. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be a fun journey. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting time, as Lee was referring to be a marketer, and particularly I think in construction.
Brilliant, thanks, Kate. Yeah, so it sounds like a great journey. Gavin Brightman of Sound Zero has been on a journey himself. So Gavin, I think you're going to tell us a little bit about the journey that you've been on in bringing in some data-driven decision making. So over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thanks for having me on the panel. So I'm just going to give it a quick introduction to myself and my business, Sound Zero, as I think it helps to give a bit of context to my personal journey of using data to drive our particular construction marketing strategy. So as was mentioned, I was kind of patient zero, and what I will tell you is that if I can do it, then anyone can do it. So Sound Zero is an acoustics, or as most people know, soundproofing company based in London, and I am the founder and director of it. So at Sound Zero, we design, manufacture and install tailor-made acoustic solutions for a wide range of industries, from offices, music studios, schools, even institutions like the NHS. And we built up an enviable client list that includes the likes of Facebook, Universal Music, Adidas, 21 Construction, Colonel Brewery, a range of Grammy award-winning musical artists, and many others beside. Oh, and did I mention that Sound Zero is a startup that's only been going for 2 years? So how have we got here so quickly and with no sales or marketing team in the house at all? Well, at the start of this journey, I had no clue what inbound marketing or the power of data-driven marketing strategy was at all. So I've had to, first of all, get to know what data is and what all this stuff is. So that journey actually I got quite lucky at the beginning, because just at the very start, I was invited to a seminar that was hosted by Lee of Insynth on inbound marketing for the construction industry. I don't know quite what drew me to it. It didn't really have a clue what it was, as I said, but for some reason I just went along to sort of see what he had to say. And I'm very glad I did, because in the space of about an hour, Lee went about blowing my tiny, uneducated mind on all the possibilities of data-driven marketing strategy. And one of the key things he said at the time that really stuck into my head, and still today, is that the UK is around 10 years behind the US when it comes to marketing, and the construction industry is notoriously slow at implementing change. And so they're about 10 years behind most other industries. So that doesn't take a maths genius to see that the UK construction industry is therefore 20 years behind its data-driven marketing strategy. So now I could see an opportunity for Sound Zero there, as a small and agile startup. If we could use the power of data, we could make waves in the industry. We're not like a big company that's set in our ways and it's like turning around the juggernaut. We're just, we could be agile and streamlined. So yeah, that seminar, I went into that seminar thinking that, we probably wouldn't use a marketing agency for maybe 2 years down the line until the business has sort of established itself somewhat. And then I come out thinking, well, it's essential that we work with someone like Insynth, because, they can teach us the ways of, using data. So everything's not a shot in the dark, so to speak. So either Lee's a very good salesman, which no doubt he is, or what he's saying had some truth to it. And the fact that Sound Zero has now been working with Insynth for 2 years from from the very start shows that there must be something to back it up. So how did they go about doing it, or how did we go about doing it together? Because you only get really out of it what you put in. It's not a one-way thing. They can't do it all for you. You need to kind of work with them yourself. So together we kind of went about strategizing and targeting the areas we wanted to look at. And so what we hit on first was office acoustics. And so Insynth went about researching our competition, gathering data for sort of keywords and key phrases, and then using that to build up a whole content strategy. They came up with a long list of blog articles that they'd be writing for us, which eventually led to an ebook on, your essential guide to office acoustics. So I have to admit that blogs to me at the beginning, I just thought there was a vanity project. Didn't really realize, they're key provider of, driving inbound leads to your site. So yeah, they've gone about writing, all these brilliant content for us. They've given us a voice, and most importantly, an audience. It's a fairly hefty subject when you're dealing with acoustics and sound, and the science behind it all. But they've relished it, and and they've given Sound Zero a voice and an authority. And then they've during that, we're gaining backlinks and getting more and more domain authority, and most importantly, moving up Google's rankings and other search engines. But most people use Google, so that's kind of been a key driver for our business, and us getting to know our audience. Off the back of that, we've now gained, I think it's about 2,500 to our e-shots. So that's an audience of mostly architects, specifiers, people in the construction industry. So, when we're sending out newsletters, we can have a sort of 4 or 5 week strategy of building up the content and seeing, oh, this person reads it again and again, and then you've got them sort of hooked, and they could become a qualified lead. So yeah, that's been fantastic. Obviously, in our second full year of, we hadn't even been first full year when COVID hit. So we was obviously building all this strategy around office acoustics, and then nearly every office was closed. So we had to pivot somewhat. But I think what Lee and Insynth have done particularly well for us is that they've given us a long-term strategy of going for architects and specifiers, and we did a whole, similar to the office acoustics, we did a whole thing on schools and education, so we become a bit of an authority in that. So the long-term health of the business is looking very good because of that, because we've given ourselves this data and we've given ourselves an audience, and we've become a bit of an authority on it. So suddenly, we're 2 years down, we've been hit with everything, but the numbers are looking good, and things are looking up. So.
Thanks, Kevin. That's really good. And I think, it's a great story. You started from a position where you luckily didn't have any of those kind of pesky legacy systems to deal with. And I'm just to kind of start off the panel discussion, I'm just interested, most people who are thinking about taking a journey into data-driven decision-making will find themselves confronted with a whole load of legacy systems. What's the first thing you need to do to help persuade the rest of your company to go with you on making these kind of changes? Lee, do you want to kick off?
Wow, yeah, that's the hard question first for us, right?
Yeah.
I guess you've got to prove a business case, but for us, when we're normally having these conversations, they do come up time and time again, we like to look at what value these systems are adding to businesses, how well they're being used, how well they're being adopted, and what sort of data people are able to get out of them. We again identify what the business goals are. That's really important. And once we understand what the business goals are and what information they've got to help them get there, we can see what the gap is. And that then normally makes it pretty clear that a centralized system such as HubSpot will often fit the bill. And the great thing about HubSpot that Dan mentioned, we can do this for free. HubSpot is available to start for free. So we can get startups like Gavin to start to build these systems up with very, very low levels of investment. And then as they get bigger, as the business become more complex, with more people and more customers, you can start to bolt on additional parts of the system to grow with your business as your business matures. So it's really about understanding what you're trying to achieve, what data you need to help you make those strategic decisions, and then finding a way to gather in that data all in one place. And then normally, you put that together in a rational way, and people can see it's not just a vanity project or just being done on a whim. They can see the real strategic value of having this single source of truth within a business, and the buy-in at senior level is often pretty good. The only exception is if they've just invested in a terrible CRM system 2 years before and they're still feeling very sore from that. But we can still help them to transition.
Okay, I mean, that's great, because one of the first things I learned about UK construction industry is that people are generally, management are in the don't tell me what you can do, show me what you can do mode, right? So they need to be able to see it. So low cost is good. Something else that I think that really confronts people is the is the poor quality and age of some of the data that people have. And I think, you know, you need to, well, and I'm not going to answer that question myself. I'm going to say, Dan, what can people do about this kind of quality age issue in data? How can they confront that quickly and easily?
For me?
Yeah.
HubSpot has a free tool called Operations Hub, just announced April 21st. Lee has all the information about it. Data synchronization, critically important, because you don't want duplicates, right? You don't want like hairball. You guys in construction in the UK, do you know what a hairball is?
Nope.
What's a, okay, it's a ball of hair, right? If you're a cat person, right, you'll know what it is. And it's just like, you find them under the couch and things like that. And it's impossible to keep track of information if it's attached to the wrong contact record, the wrong company record, things like that. And so Operations Hub is a free tool that starts with the right data sync, right? And you can get information from your HubSpot CRM inside and out, right? All the correlations, all the strip out all the duplicates, make sure you have all the right data sets so that you can run the regression analysis, look at the right information, and understand that attribution of where you really put your right emphasis. In 2021, you can't do everything, right? You have to make priorities, and it's hard, right? Manufacturing people, construction people typically have outworked competition. You can't do that anymore. You have to understand a little bit about what the most impactful data is. You have to make sure that it's accurate data. Then you have to serve it up in ways that people who may not be as sophisticated as you understand it and can take away the major points so that they can draw conclusions for big decisions.
Related as well to both of those questions, I would say try not to be a purist about it. I've been involved in kind of marketing, MarTech architecture projects, and I think unless everyone thinks they're going to get real-time integration with all of their legacy systems, they don't want to do it. So I think it is about, as Lee was saying, the business case, but almost having a proof of concept. So if you can wrap a certain amount of data up and put it into the new systems and do a POC within that, you know, it's coming back to those marginal gains. I've seen so many projects just stop before they've even kind of got going because, you know, that whole piece is not possible in terms of that real-time stuff. So yeah, start small, try not to kind of be purist about it would definitely be my advice.
Okay, that's great. And Kate, I was just going to come to you because I've observed from some of this stuff that moving to a data-driven system is something that you can't really do on the side. You're going to need to resource this. And obviously within Barber, you're kind of lucky you've got a lot of that sort of resource, but elsewhere in your career, I wonder if you've got any insight for how people can actually persuade their management that the resource is important.
Sure. I mean, I guess Gavin is owner and manager and getting this off the ground himself. He'll know. I mean, I've worked in everything from startups to kind of large corporates, and it all comes down to the business case, the return on investment, and you know, a lot of these systems that are available, you can start in a modular way with something that is going to make a major kind of difference to your business. So it's about working with the resources that you've got. And I think that a lot of times people think new systems, new CRM, marketing automation, it's going to add we're going to need loads more people. But in essence, you know, once you've got something set up, it's the very opposite. It's actually allowing you to make even more of your own resources, make kind of efficiencies. So I do think it just comes down to that strong business case and trying to find a case study of a like company in terms of size and sector, turnover and growth as well. That can be really helpful. So you can prove that here's who's done it before and here's what the outcomes have been.
Brilliant, Kate. Okay, now we've got a little crop of questions now from the audience. You guys responding to the ask for questions using the Q&A button, which should be down the bottom of your screen. Please post some more, and rest assured, if we don't get through them all, if you've asked a question, then I'll pass them to the panel and you'll get answered by email afterwards. So Lee, there's a question here that says, who are Insynth, which I think is designed for you. So I'll just hand that to you, and then I'll look at the rest of the questions, I think.
Okay, so we are Insynth is the business I'm representing, and we are a specialist data-driven construction marketing agency / consultancy, and we are inbound all the way.
Okay, that's great, Lee, thanks. And now we've got one design for Gavin. In your story, you talked about growing your business. Questioner asks if you can track, how much business you do get as a result of the work that you've done, and any learnings you can share from that about how to track this kind of thing properly.
Yeah, absolutely. We obviously, you know, we use other sort of fairly modern, powerful tools like, you know, Xero's. I again, being a startup, no background in accountancy or anything as well. So learning that, as well as inbound marketing and sales and everything else I've had to do. But you know, the modern ways, you do have these powerful tools that you can utilize, and you can segment your own business and areas, and you know, track growth that way. And then through using HubSpot, you can track a customer's journey. A particular favorite of mine is obviously you can utilize it to see when people are opening email. So you can sometimes go on the front foot. If we send out a proposal, that proposal can have you know, data of how long people have spent on each page reading it. I can then be like, oh, they've been looking at this for a little while, and then you can kind of go back to them and lead with you know, a sort of question of, oh, you seem to be or not, you don't want them to know that you're sort of spying on them, but you kind of go, you know, talk about, you know, we could give you a special deal on this or something like that. You know, you can really, there's a lot of ways you can do it. And then obviously feeding all this information into something like Xero, you're getting feedback on, you know, your turnover and what products are doing particularly well. And so you can kind of bring the data together from all of those things.
That's interesting, and I think just something within your answer there, you said you don't want people to think you're spying on them. I sometimes think that as well when I'm kind of looking at my data, thinking, oh, this person's showing an interest in something, I should talk to them. But I don't, you know, I'm very British. I don't want them to think that I'm watching, right? But Dan, in the States, presumably that's not a problem, and people, I would think, welcome that kind of contact. Is that right?
100%, right? The idea of ensuring that you're responding professionally, getting the right information to the right time, just makes it a lot easier, right? There's these expectations now that you'll have access to all of the information. And there was a couple of questions in the chat panes like, well, how do you even start, right? Isn't this a huge thing? And Lee will tell you, in the old days, right, it was a major undertaking. Now, Lee, don't you take a handful of people and just start in a couple of weeks? And can't you see the results in like just a couple of weeks to show senior management that it's not going to be this huge problem?
Absolutely. I think I've been involved in CRM implementations for over 25 years, and it used to be a colossal exercise to get people to shift from spreadsheets or legacy systems onto a new platform. And then the rate of adoption was also very low because the tools weren't particularly well produced. One of the beauties of HubSpot, which is why I'm such an advocate of it, is how clever it is at actually getting stuff set up and data imported and getting up and running. And yeah, as Dan was saying, it's typical now that we can get a system up and running in you know, less than 2 weeks. Sometimes the best we've done is 2 days, and that was going from scratch. We can actually set someone up in 2 hours if it's someone in Gavin's situation. We have no data to start with at all. It's just configuring the database and off you go, and a bit of training. But yeah, we've done big migrations in 2 weeks before.
Wow, speed is good. Okay, I've got another question, and again, this is from the kind of sorry, Dan, this is from the British value set. Marketing and sales haven't always historically been the best of friends, and here we are in this now redefining the relationship between the two. How do you see the data interface between sales and marketing evolving in this new digital world, and how can we make it so that the advantage accrues to the bottom line?
Tremendous. In 2021, it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's schmarketing. Say that with a British accent, Ross.
Schmarketing.
All right, like the first time you just dropped that. That's awesome, right? And it's not smart. I invented that term, by the way. I don't know if Lee knows that, but in 2007, can I tell people I was getting drunk with our CMO? I was like sitting in our corporate headquarters. I was drinking Sam Adams beer. He was drinking scotch. And we are just starting to get these inbound leads. And as a salesperson, as the first salesperson for HubSpot, I'm like, these leads are great. I call these people and they're like, oh, yeah, I was on your website. We have this conversation. And I'm like, I need more of those leads. He's like, I need to hire a content person to develop the content to do that. I'm like, well, do it. He's like, I have no headcount. And I'm like, I'll give you a headcount. And he stopped and he'd say, you'll give me sales headcount for marketing, which had never been said in the history of sales and marketing. And he's like, I'm like, yeah. And he's like, why? I'm like, because it's not sales, it's not marketing, it's schmarketing, it's all together. To your point, Ross, both segments use the data a little bit differently. As a salesperson, I need to be able to understand what Kate wants. I need to understand her lead intelligence. I need to understand when she's on the website. I need to understand what she likes. I want to understand if she's used a bot or not. I want to understand it if she's an email kind of person. As a marketer, we want that information in aggregate, and we want the programs and the conversion ratios. It's still the same information. And in fact, if we use different data sets, it's going to be horrible because we're going to have conflicting data sets. But if we have the same data set, right, marketing is going to take the aggregate look of the programs in the long term, the attribution, the information, the segments. And salespeople are going to use that information to have the individual interaction, right? But now we have a more common view of the customer journey, of what works, right? We always, there was a great question in the Q&A chain about A/B testing, which we love because that's using science to ensure, because if we send out an email and Gavin, his email gets a better response than Lee, forget about it, Lee, right? We're going to use Gavin's headshot as the way we're going to engage because that's just what the audience wants, right? And that's the power of having that single point of truth, which you started this conversation talking about an hour ago.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear, by the way, Dan, that certain values between sales and marketing are the same in America and here. That
I know.
You were on the beer and the CMO was on the scotch.
Yes. I don't know what you guys would be drinking, but that is an important concept. And it used to be that sales didn't want to work with marketing. Lee will tell you, right? Lee isn't really a marketing guy. He kind of looks like a marketing guy. What do you think? Does Lee look like a marketing guy or does he look like a sales guy? He's like a business guy. I call him a growth guy, right? You're all about growth, right? All you're trying to do is generate more business. And guess what? You can prove it. Right. And once you can prove it, right, then it becomes a little bit easier to get a seat at the table, get a bigger budget to make sure that people understand that the spend in marketing that they're utilizing is proper and get a good return.
Okay. Well, just wondering what kind of guy Lee is brings us to the end of this really interesting webinar. Thanks very much, guys. I'll just, we've heard about hairballs, we've heard about schmarketing. We've learned that American marketers drink scotch and so much more. So I'm very pleased about all of that. Thanks very much to all of our speakers, Lee, Kate, Gavin, especially to Dan. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning. You can either get some sleep or go out for a run. Or go and
Stop that. I'm going back to bed. You guys are great people, but I'm tired.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks very much for joining us. I will say goodbye on behalf of Construction Marketing Awards. We'll see you at our next event. Thanks very much and bye.